wastewater. Then you have what we call stack, you have branch. Branch, for if you have a 10-story building, there's something that is going to be a main stack. Main stack means that is the main one that is taking the entire odor out. Then from the main stack, you are going to have what we call branch, just like your water system. The main part that brings the water into the building. There is going to definitely be branches that go to each of the floor from the main what? From the main water pipe. Then your house or building drain. It is very, very expedient that you must ensure that your drain, your sewage, extend from the house drain at almost about 0.6 meter. That's 600 meters from the outside fence. The reason why you have to ensure this is that when you are locating your sewage tank, sewage or your septic tank, you must ensure you maintain what we call at least 6 meters away from the building or 6 meters away from the fence. The reason why is that most especially if you are doing a project on the mainland where you have the opportunity of what we call you have the advantage of your water being population. Now, if you come to a point, you have the advantage of constructing what we call a soak-away system. Soak-away system is that the entire wall of the sewage is not cemented. And that's the reason why they use what we call perforated block when they are constructing it. That is different from on the island, because on the island, the water on the island is already saturated. So you can't use that kind of process on the island. But on the mainland, you can use that. And the reason why you have to maintain 6 meters away from the fence or the building is that if you get to a point, the entire soil around your sewage tank or your septic tank will get saturated. And there's possibility of the fact that the wall can fall off. And when the wall falls off, if it is closer to the fence, it can bring down the whole entire building fence. Or if it is closer to your building foundation, it can bring down the entire building. It can cause what we call foundation differential, where you have one side of the foundation going down, the other one is up. That can cause what we call structural differential. That's the reason why under building code, it is recommended that you have your sewage located 6 meters away from the building wall or from the fence wall. Then there is what we call horizontal to horizontal change in direction and vertical to horizontal change in direction. The rule says that when you have a drainage pipe coming and is meeting another one horizontally, you should use a Y, 45-degree Y. What I mean by 45-degree Y is that means you know that angle on a straight line is 180 degrees. If you take 45 out of 180 degrees, you have 135. So that means the bend you are going to maintain is 135 degrees, so that in the nearest future, once there is a blockage, you can easily use your what? K-rod. Your K-rod can move at an angle of 135 degrees, but your K-rod cannot move at an angle of 45 because that is too sharp. Then at the same time, when you have vertical to horizontal change in direction for your drainage pipe, you must also maintain what we call 45-degree Y. That means what you're actually trying to achieve is what? 135-degree turning. And there must be what we call a cleaning trap. And what do you mean by cleaning trap? Is your cleaning trap, like I earlier mentioned, is your what? Is your manhole. So horizontal to vertical change in direction, you can use either 45-degree or 60-degree Y branch. Combination Y bend branches. Sanitary T or sanitary taped T branch or other approved fitting of equivalent to a sweep. So like I told the other class, the other physical class on the Saturday, that when you are doing your drainage, when you are laying your drainage pipe, you must ensure you maintain a minimum pitch, that is a minimum gradient. Horizontal drainage pipe must be at least minimum of 2% or 20 mm per foot. It must slope. The reason is that once there is a water that drops inside that drainage, it flows. There won't be what we call water stagnation within that drainage system. So as a facility manager, when you are taking part in project, you must ensure these are being put in place. It is a must. You must have what we call, you must maintain at least 20% gradient when you are laying your pipe. Then these are all type of taps you can have in your plumbing network. This is a common one. This is the one you can see something like this in your kitchen. This is used for lavatory, kitchen sinks, laundry tubs, and urinals. The advantage of it is that you can easily open the tap, clean the interior, and install it back. And it always retains water. The reason why there is always retention of water is it's going to prevent what we call backflow of odor. And at the same time, it keeps the entire area of that trap wet all the time. These are all examples of tap you can come across. This is a pit trap. You have deep seal pit trap. You have the stand trap. The stand trap is very common with your WC. And that's why you always see that your WC always have what we call, it's always retain water. Once the water goes inside, once we flush, it goes, and the waste doesn't have the access of coming back into the WC again, except there is a blockage along the plumbing line. If there's any blockage, the water goes straight away, the waste goes straight away to your what? Your septic or your sewage tank. So this is another type of what? Trap. This is a drum tap. So what are the required trap requirements? Each plumbing features, except those with integral tap, shall be separated tap with an approved type water seal trap. What they are trying to tell you is that in a situation whereby you have 2 or 3 urinary in the same line, instead of using one single trap for the 3 of them, it is recommended that each of them should have their own trap. Then the main pipe that contains all the waste out will be one, but each of them should have their own what? Trap. Only one trap shall be permitted on a trap arm. One trap central located may serve 3 single compartment sink or laundry tub or lavatory. That is only for what? When you have laundry tubs or lavatory, but when it is your urinary, you can't use just only one single trap. These are all talking about size of trap. Then what are clean out? I've told us clean out are more or less like drainage what? Manhole that we normally find within a plumbing area. Are the upper terminal of every horizontal sewage or waste line. When you have a waste or a sewage line, there must be what we call a manhole. Then when you have a piping network running more than 15 meters in total length, there must be a manhole along the line. Then at every 15 meters of total developed length or fraction thereof, which is the same thing like what I've mentioned. Then when additional clean out shall be provided on the horizontal line with an aggregate of offset angle exceeding 135 degrees. So that is the reason why they said when you are maintaining horizontal to vertical or horizontal to horizontal, you maintain a 45-degree Y. What does 45-degree Y means? That means you have an angle of 135 degrees at the other end. So it is easier. Once there is a blockage in the nearest future, you can easily use your K-rod for cleaning. And what are the areas where you don't need a clean out? On a horizontal drain that is less than 1.5 meter. When you have a drainage that is less than 1.5 meter length, you don't need what we call a clean out. On a short horizontal drainage pipe installed at a slope of 72 degrees or less from vertical line. So when you have your drainage installed at a slope of 72 degrees, you don't need a clean out because the water will then really flow through gravity. Ventilation, I've already mentioned that's the reason why you have a vent at the back of your toilet, and that's the function of that pipe. These are all type of vent, waste vent that you can have. You can have maize soil and waste vents. Then there is what we call a wet vent. Wet vent is the reason why you have vent wet is that you know your vent, the only thing that is going through your vent is just ordinary air, which is odor from the what? From your sewage system. But in some situation where you have like 2-story or 4-story building, you can channel all your roof gutter into that vent. When you channel all your roof gutter into that vent, when it rains, the vent takes out all the water from your roof. And that's the reason why it is referred to as wet vent. It serves the purpose of taking wastewater away from your roof and also taking odor away from your what? From your sewage system. You also have what we call local vent. You have dry vent. When the roof gutter is not connected with it, it is termed as what? Dry vent. You have stack vent. You have vent stack. So area where you need vent and area where you don't need vent. You can see this is an example of WC, no ventilation. Then here, no ventilation. So these are all examples of what? Your sanitary system where you can use your trap. So these are all examples of what? Your stacks. So bacteria in septic tank to encourage decomposition. Why you normally have bacteria? Because it's because of the fact that it's a waste. Then when it is solved, when it is deprived of oxygen, there will definitely be odor. Relief on oxygen to survive can survive in places without what? Oxygen. These are all aerobic bacteria. This could be the dimension of, these are all examples of the sewage system you can have. And these are all their dimensions and how you can construct them. You can have 2-chamber system, you can have 3-chamber system. They all have their own means of construction. Then every sewage system should have what we call a manhole. At least there must be one single manhole in case of future maintenance. So there must be airspace, there must be partitioning, there must be structure. Then you can determine capacity, you can determine location. These are all the specifications for your sewage. If you want to construct your sewage, these are all specifications. Then storm and drainage system. How do you take all your storm water away? Most of the times, there are some facilities that they have the entire external flooring area floored in such a way that it converts the water to a surface, to a floor drain. And when it converts the water to a floor drain, the floor drain takes the water into a sewage system. Inside that sewage system, there is always a sewage pump. Once it rains, the entire water in the old facility goes into that floor drain and they find their way into the sewage system. Once the water level rises, the sewage pump automatically picks up and pumps the water out of the sewage system. And that's the reason why you see those kind of water is different from the water you use in the building, because that is a rainwater. Then those ones you can pump into the public drain. That is different from your normal, the waste you generate in the building. So these are all examples of how you can construct your storm drain, sewage system. These are all examples of your roof gutter. You have the shoe. Then this is your roof gutter, taking the water from the roof and sending it out to the external area. So this is already 6. We're going to have 5-minute break. Then when we come back, we start from water treatment system. Thank you very much. We're going to observe 5-minute break. So by 6:05, we'll be back for water treatment plant. So we're going to spend 30 minutes on water treatment plant and 30 minutes on sewage treatment plant. Thank you very much. Yeah, you're all welcome from the short break. Can we all hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Sorry,
so
I can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So let's proceed with the water treatment system. You said what, ma?
I said I can also hear.
Oh,
he
fantastic.
changed it to I can, yeah. So
I can hear you too.
I can hear you too.
Oh, fantastic. That's good. That's great. So we're proceeding with water treatment system. We have just like 30 minutes to do judgment on water treatment system. Then from there, we'll go to sewage treatment plan. So I'm so sure we are getting all our questions down. Madam Juliana, please kindly help us to mute your speaker, man. Thank you very much. Yeah, what is water treatment system? Distillation. The process of removing water from its contaminants involves converting water into vapor state by you heat the water, you allow the water to cool, then the cooling water form liquid back, and that becomes a clean treated water. But because of the energy consumption that it involved, it is not economically advisable to use that kind of process. But if you are working in a nuclear plant where you have nuclear energy and mass, you can use that kind of treatment plant. And instead of wasting your energy, you can convert that one to treating your water. And you know, we spoke a lot about how do we get our water. We get our water from either from brook, from river, or from well, or from a borehole. So how do you purify your water? You can chemical process, biological process, and physical process. The chemical process include chlorination, or you install what we call ultraviolet light or flocculation. Then the chemical process, use of biological active carbon and slow sand filter. Then the physical process include what we call sedimentation, filtration, and distillation. These are all physical process. So how do you remove contaminants from your water? Sometimes removed during the process of purifying water through purification. And what are those things you are trying to take off from your water? You are trying to take algae, you are trying to take virus, you are trying to take bacteria, you are trying to take manganese, you are trying to take suspended solid, you are trying to take iron, sulfur, your calcium triisocarbonate. Those are all chemical dissolved in water that you are actually trying to get rid of through what we call filtration system. So the goal of water purification is to produce water that is fit for a specific use. So it's all depends on what you want to use the water for. If you're actually going to use the water for just only wetting of floor, you might not go to the extent of getting the water treated the way you're going to get a drinking water treated. So whatever you want to use the water for, determine the kind of processes or whatever you are going to give to the water. Reverse osmosis. Osmosis in biology. In biology, we have been told that osmosis is the movement of water from higher concentration, lower concentration to higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So reverse osmosis is the reverse of it. It comes from higher concentration to a lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So you have the water that is coming in, you take it and you give it to a very, very high pressure pump. The high pressure pump injects the water into the membrane, and the water that is coming from the membrane is called permeate. And it comes at a low pressure. The process of reducing the soft ions such as salt from water. And it is only reverse osmosis that can reduce the soft solid from like around 700 ppm to almost about 7 or 14 ppm. The higher you can achieve with a treatment plant is either 150 or 100. Filtration is the process of passing water through a water system that has one or more filter. What do? How do you, what is the purpose of filtering your water? You remove taste, you're removing color, you're removing odor, you're removing turbidity, and you're removing iron. And these are the reason why you need to filter your water. Then your ultraviolet is used to remove bacteria. So it's just like you use it to kill microorganisms like bacteria and the fungi. So what are the 3 steps in purification of water? You have sediment filter, you have kinetic degradation, you have activated carbon filter. These are all means through which you can use to filter your water. Then I always tell people that before you do the installation of your water treatment plant, the first thing you should do is try to make sure you take your raw borehole for lab analysis. Take your raw borehole, take it for lab analysis, analyze the raw borehole. The analysis will tell you the problem that is associated with your water. And that problem will inform the kind of water treatment plan you are going to set up. So water treatment plant installation determine the water quality. Knowing the water quality is a major key in installing a water treatment plant. It determines the application for the treatment. The water with a high quality will require minimal treatment. Then when you want to select your water treatment system, consider the below factor. Are there any hard water issue? Does the water have hardness? If your water doesn't have hardness, there's no need of using a hardness water configuration in your water treatment. What is the quality of water that you need? Do you need the water for sanitary purpose, or you need the water for drinking purpose? If it is actually for sanitary purpose, then you should minimize your treatment. But if the water is actually required for drinking, then you can go extra mile in getting water to what? Drinking, whatever. Then water treatment system capability. What is the capacity that you want? Do you want 1,000 liter production per hour? Do you want water treatment that at least can give you 10,000 liters of gallons of water per day? Provision of good quality of water. The treated water reduces harsh effects on the skin. The treated water does not damage laundry. So when you treat your water, you save your laundry. When you treat your water, you save your skin as well, because you use the water to what? To bath. So what are the processes? You start talking about coagulation. Coagulation is when you add alum to your water. Then you talk about flocculation. Coagulated raw water is gently mixed by large chemical powder, cause fine light particles to what? Mature into larger, denser, and heavier particles cause what? Flux. Because when you add alum to water, the first thing that happens is that the water will coagulate. Those small items that are forming like colloid is what we call floc. That is the process of flocculation. Then once the water coagulates enough, it falls to the base of the container that contains it, and you have the rainwater at the top surface of the container. Then sedimentation. Flocculated water moves slowly into the sediment basin, which I just mentioned. The heavy dense particles settle to the bottom of the basin. The settled particle forms sludge on the bottom of the sediment basin. Sludge is periodically removed from the basin. Disinfection. What do you use disinfection for? Is a very effective disinfectant is what? Your chlorine. Chlorine is added after the clarified water leaves the settling base. Chlorine helps to guard against possible contamination in the water distribution system. But when you apply your chlorine, it has a certain quantity that you must add to your water. If you don't consider the quantity, definitely you have excess chlorine in your water, and that can make the water to become what? Bitter in taste. pH. The acceptable pH for water is between 6.5 to 8.5. And when you have less than 6.5, that means the water is acidic. When you have more than 8.5, the water is alkaline. So filter water pH is adjusted by adding what? Lime. When you have more of alkaline, you use lime. But when you have the pH is lower, you can use lime as well. Lime achieves desired pH target. Lime helps to stabilize the natural soft water. Lime reduces corrosion in the distribution system. Adjusting the pH makes the water more basic or less corrosive to pipe. It extends the life of disinfectant residual. So that helps you to maintain the lifespan of all your sanitary wares. What do you use filtration for in water treatment? Removal of remaining particles in water through filter. Filter is made up of layer of gravel, sand, and crushed what? Anthracite. The suspended impurity in water are collected by what? Filtration. Water is passed through filter at a control rate, and the filter, the sediment that the filter retain is being gets ridden off through the process that we call backwashing. When you perform what we call backwashing your water treatment, what we're actually trying to do is that all the contaminants, all the dirt that your filtration system has already trapped, you are trying to like take them out of what? Out of the water treatment filtration system. That is the effect of what? Backwashing. Fluoridation. Water is treated with fluorosilicate acid when the water leaves the secondary settling basin. Fluoridation is more or less like chlorination, but the outcome of your raw water analysis will determine if you are going to perform what we call fluoridation or you're actually going to do what we call chlorination. And what are the maintenance you can carry out on your water treatment plant? You have what we call daily maintenance, we have monthly maintenance, you have quarterly maintenance, you have biannual maintenance, and you have annual maintenance. What are the daily maintenance? You dose the chemical. At times, you could do the dosing like three. If you have a very good, bigger storage system or bigger storage dosing tanks, you can do your dosing like almost about 3 days or 2 days interval. Then you have to do what we call backwashing, most especially when your water has high content of what? Iron. Then check the functionality of your filtration pump, your dosing pump, and the stirrer, your transfer pump. Then check the pH, chlorine, and TDS level. On a monthly basis, wash your dosing tanks, servicing of chemical dosing equipment, servicing of filtration and transfer pump. Then you conduct what we call laboratory analysis of the water. If you are working as a facility manager in a water industry where you sell the water for public consumption, you need to do analysis on a monthly basis. But if you are only using the water in your facility for all the necessary domestic use, your analysis should be done once in 6 months. Then quarterly basis, wash of aeration tank. That is if you have aeration tank. But if you don't have aeration tank, all your storage tank should be washed on a quarterly basis. And water storage, you must replace the filter media, most especially if you have all this wool filter. If you have activated carbon filter, you must remove them and wash them. Then biannually, carry out overhaul of the pump, replace seal, impeller, valves, and kits. Carry out overhaul of the filter vessels, tighten bolts and nuts, replace weak ones. Then annually, you can service your borehole. And what are the kind of servicing you perform on your borehole? The highest servicing you can perform on your borehole is you get a chemical, and that's what they refer to as flushing in your borehole. And most of the time, if your yield is very low, the reason why you can perform what you call flushing in borehole is because maybe the screen of your borehole where the water comes out are getting choked, are getting blocked. So that will reduce the volume of water in the borehole column. So what you can do is that inject chemical, leave the chemical for 24 hours. After 24 hours, you pump out everything. Then that will increase the yield of the borehole. Or you can do what we call compressing. You can get a compressor, compress the borehole, and that will give you a better yield as well. Some of these servicing of boreholes, some of these tanks are automated in modern water treatment plants, but trained personnel are still required to control and maintain a water treatment system. Water indicator, what are the generally acceptable of quality of water as per ISO and NAFDAC. NAFDAC said the acceptable limit for pH is being 6.5 to 8.5 pH. Turbidity, the acceptable limit is less than 5 TU. Then chlorine, between 1 to 0.2 ppm. ppm means part per million. Then total dissolved solid, the acceptable is 500 milligram per liter. Then your copper, the acceptable limit is 1.3 milligram per liter. Then manganese, 0.05 milligram per liter. Your chlorine is 250 milligram per liter. If it goes beyond that, you can have your stainless steel being getting blackened, and you have what we call brackish or salty taste. Then sulfates, which is your sulfur triazocarbonate, you have 250 milligram liter per liter. Then iron, 0.3 milligram per liter. That is the acceptable limit according to ISO and what? NAFDAC. So what are the water testing procedure? You have physical testing. Physical testing is talking about, is the water colorless? Is it odorless? Is it tasteless? That's physical testing. Then the chemical testing involve testing to confirm if the water has nitrate, nitrite, lead, dissolved manganese, you have calcium, you have hardness, which is calcium triazocarbonate. These are all chemical tests that we can carry out in water. Then biological tests involve, you want to confirm the load of organic dissolves in that water, like coliform, like microbia. It indicates the presence of microorganisms, mainly bacteria, in the water. Those are the 3 kind of tests you can carry out in your water. And these are the kind of result that your water analysis will definitely give you. So what are the hazards in water treatment plant? Exposure to hazard substance. What are those hazard substances? If you open your chlorine, when you want to open your chlorine tank, you must have something to cover your nose because of the what? It's choking effect. Exposure to hazard substances, trip or fall. Your water treatment plant should not be filled with what? Water, because it could cause trip and it could cause fall. Exposure to high level of noise, exposure to toxic substance like your chlorine, like your soda ash, your alum, electric shock if there is exposed wire, then fire hazard, suffocation, most especially chlorine. If you are somebody that is, if you know you have, what do you call it, edge issue, most of the time it's always advisable you don't get near to chlorine. Then what are the preventive measures you can use? Safety shoe with non-skid sole should be worn. Use appropriate air protection. Properly guard all equipment moving parts. Use your MSDS. MSDS is manufacturer safety. I've forgotten the meaning of that. I know it's manufacturer safety data sheet. Your MSDS is manufacturer safety data sheet. Check air quality of the confined space. Thoroughly check all electrical equipment. Use respiratory and what? Gas mask. Wear overall and use your what? Hand glove. These are all preventive measures you can use. Most especially chlorine. If chlorine touches your cloth, it turns the color. It bleaches the color because it's a bleaching agent. And if your hand touches chlorine, you could still be perceiving the odor for a whole complete 1 day before it goes off. So what are the water treatment components? You talk about aeration tank. We spoke about that one. Used for removal of hydrogen sulfide, iron from water. It is majorly used to remove odor in water. Here is introduced the aeration system to treat hydrogen sulfide and what? Iron. It has a vent system that releases hydrogen sulfide to gas to the atmosphere, provides turnover of air in the tanks. So filter vessel, you can have your vessels in stainless steel and you can have them in what? In fiber. Those are what? Your vessels. Then each of them give you advantage to perform what we call backwashing. So these are all examples of dosing pump. You use the dosing pump to inject chlorine into your what? Into your water. Water requires chemical dosing in order to control the chlorine level, pH balance, any other water quality criteria. So these are all pictures of your dosing pump that you can use. These are all examples of sterile. I mentioned to the physical class on Saturday. Now, the reason why you use sterile in your water is majorly because your chlorine is an incomplete soluble chemical in water. And if you don't use sterile, you have the chlorine settle at the base of the dosing tank. But when you have a sterile installed, it doesn't allow the chlorine to settle. And when the chlorine settles, you are actually dosing ordinary water into your water system, while you have the chlorine settled at the base. So a mechanical device is used for steering chemical added in the dosing storage tank, used for flocculation to create the desired flow condition, used to flocculate the particle in the water, ensure the rapid mixing of the chemical, also helps to avoid chemical settling at the bottom of the tank. That is the major reason why you need a stirrer in your chlorine chemical tank. Transfer pump. What are you using your transfer pump? It's used to transfer treated water to water storage tank. Its primary function is to move water from one location to the other. Water is transferred when the pump creates pressure difference. The pressure difference is what draw the water in and transfer it as the pressure changes again, which I've already mentioned at the earlier stage of this module. So that brings us to the end of water treatment plant. So we are moving to sewage treatment plant now. So we have just only 3 minutes break. Then we'll move to sewage treatment plant. Just 3 minutes. This is 6:25. So by 6:20. Can we all hear me clearly?
I can hear you.
Okay, so Let's go to sewage treatment plants. You know, at the initial stage, we talked about how do we get our water, the source of our water, what brings the water into our building. We've spoken about the pumping machine. We discussed about the piping networks and examples of sanitary wares that we can use in the house. Then the waste that we generate, we spoke that the waste goes to the sewage tank. Then we can construct what we have, what we call a soak away tank, a soak away pit, if and only if we're fortunate to fall within the mainland area. But on the island, this might not be possible because of the fact that the ground has already been saturated with what? With water. So now the waste that is coming now, there is a building code in Lagos State that says that if you're having a building more than 2-story building or 3-story building, you have to have what we call a sewage system, most especially if your building serves as an industrial area, it has to have what we call a sewage treatment. And that means before you can discharge your wastewater into the public drain, it has to be treated. And it has to be satisfied that the water can be discharged into the public drain and it will have less or no effect on aquatic living. And this is the reason why it is recommended that at every 6-month interval, you must take a sample of your sewage water to the lab for analysis. Because if Lagos State government or agent comes to your facility, the first thing they're going to request from you is, where is your sewage report, sewage analysis report? And if you don't have, they're definitely going to penalize you or sanction you. And at times it could become a very big major legal issue. And that's the reason why we facility manager, we have to guide against that. And at times there are some countries that they don't have availability of water like the way we have it in Nigeria. So what did they resolve to is that they resolve into treating their sewage water and recycle it back into normal, useful drinking water. And what is a sewage? It's a household liquid waste from our bathroom, from our toilet, from our kitchen, or the liquid waste are waste that are generated from industrial area. And now you can see you have the oil, grease, and grit from your canteen. What do? It goes to the sewage bar screen chamber, from there to equalization tank, to aeration tank, to remove odor, to saline tank. From saline tank, it goes to clarified water tank sump. From there, it goes to sand filter, activated carbon, and treated water tank. If you need the water further, clean further, you can use what we call, you can pass it through filters and then pass it through what? Through reverse osmosis, and it become what? A potable water, which is good for drinking. But if otherwise, you can pass it through what we call a water softener, add chlorine to it, and start using it as what? For what? Sanitary purpose or what? Wetting of your garden. So, or possibly you can decide to what? Discharge into what? Into what? The public drain. These are all the processes that are involved in treating your water. But during the pre-treatment of your wastewater, you will have what we call, the first stage is the screen. The screen is where they discharge the sewage. What the screen does is that it removes all the foreign material that comes alongside with the sewage. And what are those foreign material? Your nylon, your bottled water, your sticks, your rags, your leaves, your trash, and all sorts of foreign material that you can say water will definitely have. The pre-treatment is carried out with mechanical automated bar screen for large population, manual screen for small population. So every sewage plant has what we call a screen. So once this waste is coming out, screen prevents all the foreign material from having access into the major treatment. That is the first stage of the treatment. Then part of the treatment that you do is removal of grit. You adjust incoming sewage velocity, allow sand, stone, and grit to settle. So the next stage is that you perform what we call sedimentation. That is where you allow some large object like your stone, like your pebbles and everything to settle at the base of the basin. Napkins, sanitary towels, face wipe, cotton, you remove all those ones. And once you remove all those ones, the next stage is, you know definitely oil is denser than water. The oil will stay at the surface. And how do you get the oil removed? You perform what we call skimmer. Then when you remove it with skimmer, you still use what we call blower. You inject blowing, you blow it, part of the remaining oil will still settle at the surface. Then you use your skimmer to remove again. Then from there, it goes to equalization chamber. Inside the equalization chamber, what actually happens is that providing variable discharge control, you bypass and you clean, then you use aerator. It is inside the equalization chamber that you perform what we call aeration. Aeration means you expose the waste to what? Oxygen. You allow the waste to have contact with what? Oxygen. That removes the odor. And you also perform what we call chlorination within that period. And that goes to the treatment. During the treatment, we have primary treatment, we have secondary treatment, and we have tertiary. During the primary treatment, the sewage is being held temporarily in the quiescent. You hold the sewage in a quiescent for a certain period of time. Why did you do that? To enable the heavy solid to settle at the base of the basin. That is one. Floating of solid, oil, and grease to the basin surface. Removal of the floating and settled material. Discharge of the remaining liquid into the secondary treatment. So when you remove all those ones during the primary treatment, you now use pumping machine to pump that water to the what? To the next stage, which is what? The secondary treatment. And what happened during the secondary treatment is that you remove all the suspended and biological matter. You do what we call separation of organisms or microorganisms from the what? Treated water. Breakdown of the small and invisible nasty bugs. There are some ants that comes along with your what? With your sewage. You can't root them out. And you find a means of separating those bugs from well during the secondary treatment. Then from that, it goes to what we call the tertiary treatment. And under the secondary, you have two methods that you can use. You can use fixed film or suspended growth system. Those are the two systems you can use. Then after the secondary treatment, it now goes to what we call tertiary treatment. You now inject the water from the secondary system into the tertiary. Rejection of very fragile or sensitive ecosystem. Disinfection of already treated water prior to the discharge to the lagoon. That means it is during the secondary treatment plant you had what we call chlorine or you have what we call fluorine into the water. When you add fluorine, that means we perform what we call fluorination. But when you add chlorine, what you are doing is what? Chlorination. And what do you use chlorine for? To remove, it's perform your bleaching agent, and at the same time, it serves as a what? Disinfectant. So once you do that, you discharge the clean water into the public drain. Then there is always what we call a residual, which is more like a sludge. What do you do with the sludge? Treatment of the accumulated sludge, disposal of the generated sludge, treatment reduced amount of microorganisms. So most of the time, if you have the sludge and mass in a very big form, you can still use it to do what we call, you can use to generate what we call electricity. But at times, if you have in a small quantity amount, you can't use that one to generate electricity because of the what? The cost of the energy that is going to what? Involve. So thermal destruction, burning and drying sludge to generate heat. Heat is turned into what? Electricity. Gas to the grid, use of sludge to create what? Biogas. Biogas can be used to power building. There are some, I think there is a facility within the Mivaton on the Koyi area that they have, they have this kind of biogas. They do what they call sewage treatment plant. And what they do is that once in a while, they flare the gas because they can't use the gas for cooking. So they flare it, they burn it off. And that helps them to reduce what we call evacuation most of the time. Combine it and power application of aerobic digestion to this treated sludge. Sludge is treated to create biogas. Biogas creates what? Electricity after it's been burnt. These are all what you can use the sediment from your what? Sewage treatment for. Then you can use, when you do sewage treatment plant, you can't rule out pumping machine, but the pump you're going to use are differ from the normal one you use for what? Normal treatment, water treatment plant. The kind of pump you use is called sewage pump. So what do you use pump for? Spreader pump to pump the treated sewage to the process tank. The second pump, you have other pump that pump the treated water out of the sewage treatment plant to the what? To the public drain. Used to automatically remove sludge from the process tank. Then what is sludge settlement test is a test that you carry out to discover that if the sludge can be used to generate electricity. If it cannot be used to generate electricity, there is no need of you wasting your money in spending money to what. The only thing you can do during that period in time is to burn it off. And we discussed the acceptable limit in water treatment plant. This is the range at which you should have that. With this, you stand the chance of pumping your sewage into the public drain. After you have treated your sewage, your pH should be between 6.5 and 7.5. Anything above that, you have to retrieve the sewage. Then your POD should be less than 10 milligram per liter. Your turbidity should be less than 10 NTU. Then your E. coli should be you should not even have 0. So what are the type of sewage treatment that you can have? You can have activated sludge process system. You can have rotating biological contactor system. These are all the type of sewage system you can have. Then what are the maintenance that you perform on your sewage system? It can either be quarterly, biannually, or annually maintenance. Maintenance ensures plants function efficiently. And maintenance prevents plants from becoming a pollution hazard. And those kind of maintenance that you perform is that you can remove your pumping machine, clean all the seals, clean all your valves, clean all your clean all the shafts and all those stuff. So those are the kind of maintenance activity you can perform on your sewage treatment plant. And at times you can clean off your screen because you can have an accumulated dirt that's already been stick to the wall of the screen. So extended aeration sewage system plan. These are all examples of your aeration system. Digest solid and liquid waste in the central compartment. Sewage is aerated for longer period of time. Plant is maintained annually. Sludge is removed between the period of 1 to 2 years. These are when you have your sewage as a commercial one, in a commercial base. Does not work well when overloaded. Then work better when reasonably loaded. Consume more electricity. These are more or less like your normal industrial sewage treatment. Filter sewage treatment plant, then reed-based sewage treatment plant. These are all industrial-based kind of treatment plants you can have. Then there's no how you're going to have your sewage treatment plant that you won't have odor. Then how do you deal with odor? It's just like when you have a poultry farm within an environment. So how do you deal with odor? Pollution exposed to sewage sludge complain of odor. Odor indicates the presence of what? Septic condition, aerobic condition because of lack of oxygen. Compound formed from protein degradation emit very stingy smell, like your nitrogen. Pretreatment and treatment stages form compound that contain foul smelling. Compound that contribute to odor are nitrogen, your sulfur, your ketones, your acid, and aldehydes. These are all what constitute can contribute to odors in your sewage treatment plant. And there's no how you can root them out. How do you reduce odor in your treatment plant? You use chlorine, dose of chlorine, you use carbon reactor, you use calcium nitrite, you use hydrogen peroxide or iron salts. Then, what are the effects of your, what are the effects that are associated with your sewage treatment? There's no how you can have a sewage treatment plant, you won't have what we call corrosion. If you are definitely going to have corrosion, causes damage to pump, tanks, and pipes. Meter or panel are subject to gas and corrosion exposure. These are all problems that are associated with your sewage system. Then your control of your pipe corrosion. Pipe should be made of inert material. So this time around, you can use your PPR pipe for your sewage treatment. Your RCC material with sacrificial lining for large pipeline. Your line RCC pipe with sulfate resistant. RCC pipe that made with sulfate resistant cement. Lime metallic material with cement mortar and high alumina cement. These are all the kind of material you can use in your sewage treatment plant, which are not subject to what? Corrosion. Then, what are those bacteria, flies that are associated with your sewage treatment plant? When you have sewage treatment plant, there's no how you have midget. And midget, when it bites, it causes a lot of health issue. Like it causes like cholera, vomiting and all those stuff. So these are what you have to deal with. And midget either called fly larva, blood, or red worm thrive in treatment plants. You cannot do them at a sewage treatment plant. It causes allergic reactions, sensitization in human. Then discharging of poor or untreated sewage causes a lot of diseases. Health issue. The sewage discharge pollute the water, it spread diseases, it destroys aquatic life if it is not treatable. If it is treated and you have all the parameters in place, you can discharge them into public drain and they can find their way into sea or ocean, and they will have less or no effect on aquatic living. Then you have environmental impact of your treatment plant. Toxins, excess nutrient, heavy metal, pathogens. Pathogens end up in swimming pool and drinking water and causes dysentery, hepatitis, diarrhea, respiratory infection, and heart diseases. These are all the diseases that are associated with treatment plant if they are not properly handled, if they are not properly treated. And that brings us to the end of sewage treatment plants. So we have exercise at the end of this, which is combination of exercise on plumbing, on water treatment, and on sewage treatment plant. We have to answer every question and submit through the same process that we're using to submit all our assignment before. Then for the next 15 minutes, I'll be entertaining questions from every one of us. At least I will try to pick like 3 questions. If time still permits, we can add 2 extra ones to make it 5. So please kindly signify by raising up your hand if you have any question. Mr. Kazim, you'll be the first person. Mrs. Juliana, you'll be the second person, and I didn't know one more person. Okay, Mr. Richardson, so you'll be the third person. So let me start with Mr. Kazim Olubade. Mr. Kazim, please go ahead with your question.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. My first question is, the dosing pump, is it repairable?
Is it what?
Is it repairable?
Dosing pump. It all depends on
sir.
the one you are using. There is domestic one, there is industrial one. Your dosing pump can be as costly as 700,000 naira. So those ones can, but the most common one are more or less like all those 15 liter per hour injection. Those are the most common one. The major problem that one normally have is, it is either if the electric motor inside doesn't have an issue, but if the electric motor has an issue, you can't repair it. Then the only thing is that it has a capacitor inside. If the capacitor is faulty, the capacitor is using the same capacitor, like 4 or 5 micro UF. So you can get the capacitor, they have the same capacitor like your ceiling fan. You can get the capacitor and replace it. But if you buy all this other one that is as costly as around 100 or 150,000 naira, at times you can replace their rubber cells if they have issues. Okay, and you can repair, you can rewind the electric motors at times.
Okay, thank you, sir. My second question is, in one of my facilities, the filter I'm using is a stainless one, but I have the issue of it's always leaking. So when you work from one side, maybe in 2-3 weeks, you see it leaking again from another side. So I want to ask, is there, well, I think, okay, what does the remedy? What can I do to just make sure that that issue is resolved?
Okay. With stainless steel, you cannot completely rule out leakages. But with fiber, it's possible you can't have leakages. But most of the stainless steel are very, very available now. You have several numbers of stainless steel. We have 208 stainless steel. We have SUS 208. We have SUS 3. We have SUS 304. We have SUS 316. The SUS 208 or 201, they have almost about, let me say 60% stainless steel and 40% metallic substances. And those are the ones that when you weld them, they either crack or shatter. So when you weld it in one side, it transfers the problem to another place. But if your filtration filter is made of S304, S304 has almost about 95% of stainless steel and just only 5% of metal, because you need metal before you can do welding work on stainless steel. So the reason why they inject the 5% metal into it is because of the welding work. And that's the reason why your S304 is always ductile and malleable, and it is less reactive to chemical. But your S304, your S208 and 201, they are subject to rusting. They can rust. But your 304 will never rust because it's a pure stainless steel. So most of the time, when you want anybody to supply you your filter, if you are going to use stainless steel, always try and find out from the person if it's actually coating for 208, 201, or 304. The best you can use is 304. If you use 304, and tell the person to do argon welding, not arc welding. You know, argon welding is all about welding with gas, but arc welding is welding with electrode. It could be stainless steel electrode, but there's a difference between argon welding and arc welding. Argon welding gives you a better neat job compared to arc welding.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're much welcome. Madam Juliana, please go ahead.
All right, sir. Please, I have some couple of questions I would like to ask. First of all, you talk about manhole.
As long as they are couple, we marry them together. Just only tell us, do you want us to do church wedding for them or what wedding? Or should we do traditional wedding?
Who are you asking? Is it me?
You said you have couples of questions. You said you have couples of questions. So I'm trying to see how we can wear the couples together. Don't mind that. I'm just trying to bring fun out of it. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. You mentioned water manhole. I didn't get that part, sir. Maybe you should just explain it to me again.
In plumbing system, there is always need for you to create a manhole when you have your drainage pipe being run more than 15-meter length. Manhole means when there is blockage in the nearest future, you can open the manhole and get you can clean the chamber from one chamber to the other through the manhole. But if it is more than 15 meters and you don't create a manhole, it becomes a bigger issue.
Okay.
Okay, the second question.
All right, sir. I got it now. All right, sir. Then the second question is, I just wanted to know if, can we treat water for sewage and the water for usage, as in washing of hands, like in the facility where we have sewage and then we have where we can wash our hand and all that. Are the water treated the same and distributed to different sources, or they are treated separately?
They are treated separately. Sewage is separate because sewage is talking about your wastewater that you have used in the facility. Your normal treatment plant is water that is coming from the borehole. Your sewage can be treated to the level of drinking. It's possible. But most places where I've seen sewage in the country, they are actually being treated to be discharged to the public drain. People that doesn't have the money to do sewage treatment plant, they venture into what we call fat trap. They construct a stainless steel fat trap, and they do what we call a general cleaning, possibly a daily cleaning of the fat trap. But you can actually treat your sewage water and use it for sanitary purposes. It's possible.
Okay. So, so I also wanted to know, you mentioned about when chlorine is much, when you were talking about chlorine, about it, that you have chemicals in the water, just like chlorine. Is there any remedy for it? Is there any way that the chlorine can be extracted when it's too much in the water?
If it is too much in the water, you cannot extract it. The only thing you have to do is that you have to have a measurement for your chlorine. It has a dosing rate. Whoever does your water treatment plant should tell you maybe it is 0.5 kg of chlorine to 100 liters of water, or it could be 1.1 kg of chlorine into 100 liters of water. It could be 1.5 kilogram of chlorine into 100 liters of water. There must be a mixing ratio.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. The final question is, like now, we know that there are lots of pipe that are laid under the ground when it comes to building construction, especially that sewage parts and all that. That you can see, maybe sometimes you see that some maybe toilet water can be leaking from one part of the other, and you are trying to find out where this water is coming from, you don't get it. So I'm trying to know if there is any software that FM or facility manager can use, to detect that so and so place, that is where the problem is coming from, instead of, the stress of checking before you can see the problem.
Okay.
Is there any software like that?
Most especially when you do project work, before the plumbing system is being put into operation, they always conduct what we call pressure test. When they conduct pressure test, if there is any point where there's going to be leakage, before they inject water into the plumbing system, it will definitely come out. They'll be able to rectify it before they do handing over. Then the second thing is, I always tell facility manager, when you are taking over a facility, you should always request for a as-built diagram of that particular building. The as-built diagram will tell you the area where the piping network have been laid for. At times water could be having leakage at point A, and where the water will come out to be point B. Then that means if you don't have an as-built diagram telling you where the leakages pass, that means you have to break the whole entire floor, looking for where the leakage is actually coming from. So that's why it is always required. You must get what we call an as-built drawing of that facility. Because even if you have a software, what you are going to inject into that software is the physical drawing that you have at hand. If you don't have the as-built drawing, there's nothing you want to inject into the software. Because the software will not do the job. You need to go inside the software. Because you have to program the software.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Do you still have other question, ma'am?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Richardson.
Yes, please.
Okay, go ahead with your question, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So during the course of the lecture, you mentioned types of water storage, the overhead storage tank and surface storage tank. So recently we constructed a toilet facility just close, like an outdoor toilet facility where people can come and use instead of coming to the office areas. But I noticed that the pressure in the toilet in that place is not much. So the engineer advised and said that we need to raise the tank, because the tank is at ground level. I want to raise the tank up, so that will help the pressure. But during the lecture, you said that that's not what causes the pressure. So I want to advise: is it that we actually need to raise the base of the tanks so that it can help the pressure, or like you said, that we use the overhead storage tank where the pressure differential will now be will now be equal, so that it doesn't affect, or we have enough pressure during when the outflow of water is going. Hope you get my question.
Okay. The engineer is very, very right. If you increase the height of the storage tank, you stand to gain a better gravity. That might increase the flow of that water. That is one. Then two, if you have all your storage tank on the floor, the best you can do is the pipe that take water to that toilet. You can install a maybe possibly 0.5 horsepower pumping machine. Give it a pressure pump. Give it a pressure switch. Put a pressure switch on it. It will boost the pressure down to the toilet. That's the other thing you can do. So it's two options. You can either increase the height of the tank. That will give you a better gravity. Or you leave the tank on the floor as it is and get a, just like zero, since it is just only toilet, get a 0.5 horsepower pumping machine. Put a pressure switch on it and send it will use it to send water to the toilet. That will give you a better pressure.
All right, thank you so much.
You're much welcome, sir. Mr. Sunday, please, once I've answered your question, drop your hand or It is, you can always still have your hand on in case you still have another question again. Mr. Sunday.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Sunday.
Hello, can you hear me?
Clearly, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Sir, yes, you mentioned something about water treatment.
Yes, sir.
You talked about the normal water we usually use in the house and also the sewage tank. So I want
Okay,
to know
sir.
the difference between the chemicals that they use in water treatment. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
For the yeah, so I want to know the difference between the chemicals because I don't know if we can use chlorine and alum to treat sewage tank, the one under the ground for waste.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, sir. Can I go ahead, sir?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead, sir.
At the beginning of the module, when we started the class, I told us that one single water treatment process cannot be used to solve every water problem. Can you please help us mute your speaker? I can hear background noise.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Sunday. So you can't use one single water treatment process to solve all water problems. The first thing you need to do is analyze your water. When you analyze your water, it will tell you the biological problem of the water. It's going to tell you the chemical problem of the water, and it's going to tell you the physical problem of the water. That is what exactly is going to inform the kind of treatment you are going to give to the water. And that's what we're going to tell you. Either you have to use alum, either you have to use chlorine, either you have to use soda ash, either you have to use alum to treat the water. Then, if you are treating your sewage treatment, the only thing you need is sedimentation. So if it is only when you want to treat the sewage for a drinking water that you can now start talking about chlorination. Because when you are doing sewage treatment plant, you still need to do what we call disinfection. And what are those things that you can use for disinfection? Because you are trying to like avoid odor, you are trying to avoid bacteria. So what are those materials you are going to use to treat that sewage? You are talking about chlorine, you are talking about fluorine. So when you analyze your sewage, it will tell you what are the biological and the physical challenges of that sewage water. That will inform the kind of treatment you are going to give to the sewage. You can treat your sewage and use it for domestic use, for sanitary purposes. You can treat your sewage and still use it for consumption. The two of them are possible, but your lab analysis, your lab test will tell you the kind of system you are going to put in place that will give you your end result in terms of water treatment. How does answer your question, Mr. Sunday?
Yeah, yes, very clearly. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay, Mr. Olabode, you can go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Olabode.
Yes. My first question is on the borehole, sir.
Okay, sir.
You mentioned on flushing that it's not always necessary. I actually didn't get that aspect. Is it that it's not necessary to do flushing when there's no enough yield from the borehole?
No, when you don't have enough yield in your borehole, yes, there are two things you can do. You can flush the borehole with chemical. There are several numbers of chemical you can use to flush the borehole.
Okay.
Those are being done by borehole experts. After you have flushed the borehole and the yield is still not okay, you can do what we call compression. You can get a compressor, compress the borehole. The reason why you are compressing the borehole is that there is something we call screen. The screen are pores, are holes where the water from the ground is entering the borehole column. So at times, jets can clog those points. That will reduce influx of water into the column. And once there is reduction in the influx of water into the column, that means your submersible will have less water to take out. So what you do by compression is that you are trying to clear all the pores, all the holes on the screen, so that you have much influx of water into the column of your borehole. So I hope that answers your question, Mr. Sunday. Mr. Sunday.
Olabode, sir. Olabode.
Okay, Mr. Olabode, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Very well, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, do you still have another question?
Yes, sir. The second one is on sewage. Actually, on the ball surrounding the facility, we have about 9 to 10 manhole surrounding the facility. But my observation is that each of these manhole, there's always a damp rising from it. And whenever we open to address the issue, what we find out is that there is either a hole, so the weak cement in the manhole we redress. Given like a month or two again, we have to come back to this again. So we have to be doing this on a regular basis. As I speak now, we already have the issue. This damp rising is actually defacing the beauty of the building because the paint peel off. It tries that way. Is there anything we are supposed to pay attention to or anything we need to do to address this rather than keep opening the manhole on a regular basis, dressing up the inner part of it? So,
are you saying that the manhole is getting blocked, or you are talking about the manhole is affecting the wall of the building?
It's affecting the wall on the building. That is whenever we open, we always find hole inside the manhole. Where the water that comes just have to penetrate and it's actually defacing the building. Many times we've actually had to
what I will actually advise you to do. What I will actually advise you to do is the best thing is for you to excavate the manhole and do a very fresh one. Then the first surface of the manhole, what you apply is what you call water cement.
Okay.
You are not, if you use it, because see, the reason why you are having that issue is that if you apply normal cement, there shouldn't be any water going into the manhole for at least a minimum of 24 to 48 hours, because you need to allow that cement to cure. But if you apply cement, in less than 2 hours, you started having water flowing to that place. It will wash off all the cement completely. So if you actually want to do this, that means you have to shut down the entire sewage drainage for at least 24 to 48 hours. There won't be single water coming in. Then you have to excavate the entire manhole and redo a very fresh one. The interior of that manhole will be filtered with what we call a water cement. And you have to leave it for at least 24 to 48 hours for curing. Once you can apply that, you will resolve the problem. But if you are just applying cement and 2 hours later, somebody is washing dishes, somebody has started taking his bath, it will wash up the cement. It won't cure.
I agree, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Oluwayomi Emmanuel.
Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Emmanuel. My name
Yes.
is
Yes, thank you very much, sir. I have 3 questions here. Three questions.
Go ahead, sir.
Number 1 is a minor one, but I don't know how I can address it. Why is it that always I've been facing that problem in Lagos, in all the places I've been going, that there will be water. Once we are pumping water, there will be water downstairs. Before we get water upstairs, it will take us like more than 1 or 2 hours. And I'm always not happy.
It is called pressure differential because you are using overhead tank.
Oh, so what do you think? What can I do now on that? So how can I do that?
There is nothing you can do. The only thing you can do is that you can bring your tank to the floor level and use what we call a pressure pump. Install a pumping machine and put a pressure switch on it. It will take the water to every floor and you have the same pressure all through.
All through? Oh,
yes.
Okay. The number 2, borehole, you made mention of flushing borehole. Why do they flush borehole? Why do I need to flush my borehole? I've not heard of flushing borehole before.
If your yield is low.
What is yield?
The water that is coming into, your borehole has aquifer.
This is big English again.
Your borehole has what we call aquifer. The aquifer is where the water is coming out from. And you have a PVC pipe that is when the borehole is being drilled, you are creating a hole down to the aquifer. And they put a casing, they call it casing. It's a PVC pipe, it could be PVC pipe, and it could be API pipe, which is metal pipe. In that PVC pipe, there is something that they call casing, screen. The screen is where the water is entering the column or that pipe. The screen is done in such a way that it has a very tiny space where only water is the only thing that can come into that column. There are some situations can come where those holes are get blocked by either dirt inside the bubble, or if you have mortar, what we call clay altercation in your water, it's possible. The reason why you use flushing is that there is a chemical you can apply inside that bubble. The chemical will go into the pores, into all the holes of that your casing, and it will remove all those foreign material that are blocking that that screen, and there will be much volume of water inside the borehole column that the submersible can take out. Then after you have injected chemical and you still don't get much volume of water coming out, the next thing you are going to do is you look for a compressing machine. You compress the borehole. When you compress the borehole, the compressor works better than normal chemical. It will clean all the screen holes. And when it's clean all the screen holes, then you have a better yield of water. You have a better volume of water inside those columns. Then your submersible has enough water to take out. That is what is called or compression of borehole. If you have never come across that kind of a challenge before, you won't know it.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the second question, sir.
The last one about manhole. A manhole should be opened when there's a blockage. I think so.
Exactly.
Or should it be open often to just check?
If you don't have any blockage, there's no need, because at times when you consistently opening your bore or your manhole, if you don't do proper cementing after you open it, if you don't do proper cement, most especially when you open like today, and you said, okay, you are going to do cementing tomorrow. Between today and tomorrow, overnight, a lot of rodents and ants will have found their way inside that manhole. And before you know it, you know, cockroaches and all this stuff, they can stay inside the drainage system for days. Before you know it, they started producing. And before you know it, you started having a lot of visitors in your flat.
Oh.
So if you don't have any blockage, there's no need of you opening it.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, sir. So thank you very much for all the questions and every other thing. So we're going to call it a day. And let me say, from here, I will be dropping the curtain. And the next time we're going to see is during your graduation.
That's serious.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
So
Thank you very much.
So let me say bye-bye from here.
Bye, you. Bye, bye, bye.
Thank you very much.
God bless you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. In case you need any question from I need him to answer any question, always get in touch with Barakat. He will definitely get across to me. I'll provide answer and get across to you.
Yeah. Are you on LinkedIn, sir?
Yeah, yes, I am. I am on LinkedIn.
Very active on LinkedIn.
Yes, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on WhatsApp. I'm on Facebook. I'm very, very social.
Can you drop your handle, sir?
You said what?
Can you drop your handle?
Yeah, on LinkedIn. Yeah, on LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay. I will share that with Barakat.
LinkedIn, anyone.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
So good night, everybody.